All right, Miss Malden here. We are talking right now about photosynthesis. And photosynthesis, as you know, hopefully, is the process of converting carbon dioxide in the air, water from the ground, using any light source, mainly the sun, okay, to create a molecule of sugar, typically some sort of carbohydrate like fructose or glucose, and oxygen, okay? So when I balance this, what I'm simply doing is saying that it requires 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water to produce 1 molecule of sugar and 6 oxygen. Okay, so this is our balanced equation. Remembering that all autotrophs, okay, autotrophs are particularly, oops, so it's an A there, okay, particularly photoautotrophs are the only ones that undergo photosynthesis. And there are also some organisms called chemoautotrophs that will undergo chemosynthesis. Okay, so chemoautotrophs do not undergo photosynthesis. They undergo chemosynthesis. Alright, so backing up just a little bit. Alright, so here's our diagram of the chloroplast. Okay. Inside the chloroplast, we have, of course, this is a membrane-bound organelle, so we have an outer membrane and an inner membrane. We have this fluid called the stroma that surrounds the inside, and then we have these stacks called granum. Okay, so more than one granum are called grana. Okay, that's the plural. And each of these stacks right here are called thylakoid membranes. Okay, so here's a thylakoid, here's a thylakoid. There's a bunch of thylakoids stacked on each other to form one granum. Alright, so this is the organelle in which photosynthesis takes place, and both the light reactions and the dark reactions happen here. Okay, just looking at an overall model, okay, the light reactions require energy from the sun. They are intaking the water and letting out oxygen. Okay, so this over here is the light reactions. The light reactions, of course, include both photosystems. All right. In the dark reactions over here, or the Calvin cycle, okay, dark reactions, we're taking in carbon dioxide and then producing a sugar. Okay, it's a 3-carbon sugar. And we have to, of course, go through this twice to produce 2 3-carbon sugars and eventually end up with glucose. What you need to remember are these things right here, okay? ADP and NADP plus. These are the uncharged taxis. Okay, and over here we've got the charged taxis. So the purpose of the light reactions is to charge up these taxis so they can bring them to the dark reactions. The dark reactions use them, and then they go back to the light reactions and pick up ADP will pick up another phosphate group over here, and NADP plus will pick up another electron. Okay, so they're just shuttling energy to keep these dark reactions going, since the dark reactions don't require the light to run. Okay, so inside, in the light reactions, or light dependent, okay, reactions, we are taking in water. Okay, we're using the sunlight. Okay, and remember the sunlight releases photons. Okay, so if here's our membrane, right, thylakoid membrane. Okay, here's our membrane, and then down here is our stroma. Okay, what we have is energy from the sun being used, so there's lots of water in the stroma. Remember, it's a liquid. So we're splitting this water into 3 things. We've got protons, we've got oxygen, and then we've got electrons. Okay, these electrons are being used to replace the electrons in chlorophyll. So I'm going to change color here. Here's chlorophyll. I'm going to color it green so you know it's chlorophyll. Okay, so the energy from the sunlight comes down. Okay, this photon gets absorbed by chlorophyll, and then chlorophyll releases electrons because of this energy transfer. Okay, so these electrons get really excited, they leave chlorophyll, and they start moving down the thylakoid membrane through a series of reactions. Okay, this is just one example of an electron transport chain. When we split water, we're using these electrons to replace the ones in chlorophyll. Okay, this oxygen is going to leave as oxygen gas. Okay, this is waste. O2 waste. This is A2. Okay, and then these protons are going to be pumped across the membrane. Okay, so the movement of electrons is enough to pump all of these protons up here and give us this very, very high concentration gradient of protons. Okay, so I'm going to label this up here. This is photosystem 2. Okay, right here we've accounted for what happens to water. We've let off oxygen gas waste. Chlorophyll has released its electrons down the electron transport chain, and that's enough to pump these protons up here and cause a huge concentration gradient. Okay, which just means a difference in concentration. Okay. All right, in the next part, okay, here's our membrane. We've got this huge concentration gradient. So here's our protons up here. Okay, they do not like to be next to each other for a couple reasons. First, the natural concentration gradient causes diffusion. Okay, and they're trying to get back down here to where there's not a lot of hydrogens. We've got this enzyme that they finally find. Okay, this enzyme is really cool. It's called ATP synthase. And because of that, you know it's an enzyme. It ends in ASE. You also know that it synthesizes ATP because it's named ATP synthase. So these protons fall back through ATP synthase. Okay, and this process of them falling back through here takes no energy because they're trying to get back through. And it also causes this enzyme to be capable of putting this phosphate group back on ADP and creating ATP. Okay, so we have all of this energy created here, and this energy is going to go to the dark reactions. Okay. We also have in this process energy carriers called NADP. Okay, NADP plus. They're looking for electrons. Okay, these electrons that we're finding their way through, okay, are going to fall onto NADP plus, so it's going to pick them up and create NADPH. Okay, so when you pick up an electron, a hydrogen naturally goes with it. Okay, so we have this proton, which are just hydrogen atoms that don't have any electrons, and with that comes an electron from the electron transport chain. So we're taking NADPH and this ATP produced and bringing them to the dark reactions. Okay, the purpose of the light reactions is to split water, release oxygen, and then create these two things to fuel the dark reactions so that the dark reactions can happen. Okay, so in the dark reactions, okay, or light independent, okay, also called the Calvin cycle, just to make things more complicated for you. Okay, I don't know why they have a bunch of names. This is the guy, obviously, that figured out how the Calvin cycle happens. But the Calvin cycle is a series of reactions. We're going to take in the energy carriers from our light reaction. So we have NADPH, okay, and we also have ATP, okay, that are going to fuel this reaction. What the Calvin cycle does is bring in carbon dioxide, Okay, so this accounts for our carbon dioxide. And then there's a series of reactions that happen here. We're beginning with a 3-carbon sugar. Okay, so 3-carbon sugar. It's going to pick up some carbon dioxide, and it actually picks up 3 carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, so after it picks up the carbon dioxide here, then we've got a 6-carbon sugar. Okay, and what happens is we need these, okay, these energy carriers to deposit their energy enough so that we can split this. Okay, so these are going to get split. We've got 2 3-carbon sugars, and one of them is extra energized. Okay, I'm gonna this one. Okay, due to a change in conformation. Okay, it's just got a structural change. The electrons are placed around here a little bit differently, and it's energized enough so that it can escape. Okay, so when this comes out, we've got a 3-carbon sugar that is the product of the dark reactions, and we have another 3-carbon sugar that kind of stays in here. Okay, so this 3-carbon sugar will be shuttled around by enzymes, and remember, enzymes are controlling all of this, and it'll come back around and pick up 3 more carbon dioxide, and the same thing happens. Okay, so the dark reactions bring in carbon dioxide, they bring in these electron taxi here, and also a little bit of ATP. They release a sugar. So as soon as this cycles twice, we've got 2 of these 3-carbon sugars, and then we can create glucose or some other sugar, and it could be something like fructose. It depends on the plant, of course, okay, and what their requirements are. So we know where glucose came from. We know why we need carbon dioxide. The light reactions account for water and oxygen, and that's our overall photosynthesis reaction.